Hey guys, welcome back. This is one of those really entertaining math videos. This one's specifically for IB Math Studies students. Math Studies students have to complete their internal assessment, their IA, and they usually have to do some sort of write-up on mathematics. Most students pick a statistics-based project, and basically I think the real barrier that they encounter is when they're putting together this report. They don't know how to do some of the things or incorporate some of the things that they would like to have, like histograms or cumulative frequency diagrams or box and whisker plots. And Excel will do a great many of these for you. So what this video is going to do is show you how to make a frequency histogram in Excel. So here's a simple way to do it. I know there are other ways to do it, but this is the way I would suggest. So let's have a look here. What I have here is a drawn up list of students and data. And what I'm basically doing is I'm taking these students, I'm comparing their English test scores with their math test scores. So what we're going to end up doing here is creating a histogram for just one of these. A histogram is a univariate representation, so we're only going to pick one variable. In this particular case, I'm going to only choose the English test. I can make a separate histogram for the math test later if I want to. So this is what I'm going to do. In a histogram, we typically have class intervals, is what they're called in math studies, but Excel, they refer to these as bins. So we're going to make a label here called bin width. And then next to that, I'm going to have frequencies. Okay, so let's say test scores, I want the bin width to be, 10-point intervals. So we'll start with a 0, the lowest test score you can make. And then on the next one, I'm going to make an equation. So we're going to hit equal sign here, and I'm going to say, I'm going to click on this one, and then I'm going to add 10. And then what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it all the way down. I don't really need to go near that far. I don't really need to go to 100, so that should be far enough. So that will give me my bin width intervals. So you can see they're going up by 10, increments of 10. Now this part here is the tricky part. This is the frequency. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to have, the first frequency is going to be, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in another equation. It's going to be equal, and then if you go to insert, let's get this unlocked here. Alright, actually what I'm going to do is not hit equal. I'm just going to go to formulas. I'm going to go to more functions right here. It's going to say statistical functions, and what I want is one called frequency right here. And basically this is going to want your data array and your bin array. Your data, of course, is the data for my English test. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to highlight all of the English test data. Okay. And then that's okay. And then they want my bin array, and this is what I've created here, my bin width. And then what I'm going to do here is click OK. Now what this basically means is that the frequency at the bin width of 0 is 0. There are no students that scored a 0. But you have to be very careful here. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to select this and highlight all of this. And then I'm going to come back up here to my formula line at the top here. Click there. Once I click there, you can see that it's highlighting the different elements that go into the frequency, specifically the data and the bin width. So what I'm going to do here is when I get to this far, I'm going to actually hit Control Shift Enter all at the same time. And it's actually going to copy, well, it's actually going to create my frequency list. So the data between 40 and 50, there's 5 of them, for instance. That's the command. You have to hit Control Shift Enter when you get there. That's for a PC. If you're on a Mac, I think the command is, I think it's Command Enter or Command Return or whatever the the equivalent is for a Mac, but I'm using a PC for this. So now that I have this is going to be pretty straightforward. What I can now do, and I'm going to highlight the frequency list first. That's what I'll do. I'm going to highlight the frequency lists, and now what I'm going to do now is highlight the frequency list, and I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to come up here and select the 2D column graph. And what that's going to give you is what looks like a bar chart. But there's some modifications we're going to have to make to this, but that's okay. As you can see, it's kind of symmetrical. There's sort of a normal distribution going on here, and that's what you should find when the more data points you collect or the more samples elements you have, your distribution should look roughly more and more normal. So what I'm going to do now is alter this some, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to do select data. And as you can see here, I want my grades to go up from intervals of 10, and this is going up, counting up to 10, which is not what I want. So I selected, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to edit this horizontal axis. The data range is going to be your bin width. That's what you want. And then I'm going to hit OK. Now that's kind of more what I want. As you can see though from this graph, everything up to 30, there's nothing there. So we can really just come back here and take those out. We don't really need that in our graph. So what it's going to do is going to get rid of that pretty much. And you might want to go back and leave the 30 if you want. It doesn't really matter a lot. You can put it back in, and that's okay. We don't need these grid lines, so you select the grid lines. You can right click and just hit delete if you want, and they'll disappear. Actually, yeah, that's okay. I'll delete them. Okay, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to come up here, this little plus sign. We're going to add some axis titles. This particular title will be frequency. I don't want to move it, just want to highlight it. Type in frequency here. And then here, this is going to be student scores. The chart title, we could say student English scores if you want, or English test scores. Alright, now this is still a bar graph. We want a histogram, and a histogram typically doesn't have these big gaps in between our bars here. So we're going to modify that, and I'm going to right click and say format data series. This is going to give me this little thing popping out here. The gap width is what I want to address here. This needs to be a 0. I can do the set the series overlap to 0 as well. And then when I select this, you see everything's kind of disappeared. So I want to select the data again because all of the boundary lines are gone. And I want to go to border, and I want to select a solid line, and that should fix that. And also might want to change the color here. When you print this out in black and white, dark colors are not going to show up very well. So what I'm going to do is make this a lighter shade of blue, something like that. Okay, and this is kind of what you have here. You can now take this and copy it, and then you can go into like a Word document and hit Control V and paste it, and then you'll have this in your actual IA document when you're typing around it. So this is kind of a nice thing to do. Remember, this is only one test score, so I could just as easily go back and do this again for the math test scores. And I suggest you actually just add a new sheet to your Excel document and just do this whole process again for the math scores. But that's basically about it, and I hope you find that helpful. And this is how you make a frequency diagram in Excel. right.